Kia kotu katoa, and welcome to another episode of SidekickTV. And today, back by popular demand, we have with us Aleisha from Rebel Influencer, talking more about social media engagement. Thank you for joining us again, Aleisha.
Thanks for having me back. I'm really surprised that so many people wanted round two.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. Thanks for having me.
No, it's awesome. And it was cool as well, like obviously being able to do this in person now rather than just off
I know.
like a Zoom video.
Not in my lounge anymore.
Hey, look, we fired a few questions out to our audience as to what they wanted to cover off, and we got some back, and I understand you sent some direct as well. But we wanted to start with Murray's questions first.
Yes.
So Murray had posted, "How do you target prospects on multiple platforms?"
Yes. Okay. And this is a fantastic question because a lot of businesses these days are using multiple platforms, and there's obviously efficiencies that people are looking for within that. I guess the answer to this question is really about the size of the business as well, because there's two main ways that you can really do this. And I think if you have a larger business with a bigger sales team, you really want some sophisticated software and a tool that helps you kind of aggregate all your marketing channels to bring into one central point, which helps the cohesion between a marketing team and your sales team. So that's a tool like Salesforce, for example.
Right.
So Salesforce is a tool that allows you, there's multiple components to Salesforce. It is obviously quite an expensive investment for a lot of businesses. We're talking thousands of dollars here.
Yeah.
So, you have to be able to justify incorporating that kind of tool and software into your business. So it's really for those kind of larger businesses that have multiple salespeople and are doing a lot of activity across multiple platforms where the leads are actually coming through from the platforms into Salesforce. They're getting kind of flagged by the marketers and tasked out to certain salespeople to then follow that up.
Yeah.
It's a really great tool because, from a marketing point of view, we like to see what happens to those leads that we generate for sales teams. And so something like Salesforce gives us a lot of visibility, a lot of data. We can actually make sure that the salespeople are following up the leads as well, and nothing's kind of dropping through the cracks. But yeah, it's an investment, and the thought process.
So can that pull from things like Messenger? Pull from were you saying like hashtags on certain posts or something?
It's
a
a super comprehensive tool, and there's a lot of different elements. Like you can attach the CRM element to it, you can attach the marketing hub element to it. And it's constantly growing. It's a massive sales tool, and there are other tools that are similar to that, but in my experience, I've only dealt with the likes of Salesforce, and every year there's extra bells and whistles that some are free and some come at an extra cost. But the important thing to remember when kind of contemplating using that type of software in your business is around: are we going to have our team adapt to that type of way of doing things? Sometimes salespeople get very stuck in their routines and their ways, and they're either very email focused or paper focused or whatever it may be. The key is with Salesforce, if you're going to implement it into your business, you have to have 100% uptake, buy-in, everything. Otherwise, it's a big fat waste of money. To be perfectly blunt.
I think I like what you mentioned about having a cohesiveness between marketing and sales, because those are two very integral parts to sort of digital marketing and social media. But depending on how you're doing it, they might not necessarily mean the same thing.
Exactly. I've talked to a lot of businesses where there is a massive disconnect between marketing and sales teams, and it's to the detriment of the business. That really needs to be a really big connectivity between marketing and sales. And I'm the type of marketer that thrives off the results. So if I'm not getting that intel, if I'm not understanding what's happening to those leads, then it's not really making a fulfilling job for myself. So if you are running a big business where you've got a marketing team and a reasonable sized sales team, look at how they're working together and seeing what gaps can be filled. And the likes of Salesforce is a really great tool to bring that kind of thing together. But it's because it's such a big investment, it really needs to have that thought process and an implementation that's got 100% buy-in, and that it is being constantly used correctly, that as in people are using that as their daily tool. They're gone from a sales call, they've done that, they're updating the notes in Salesforce. Otherwise, and I've seen all too often in a lot of businesses, is not being used to its full potential, or the question, oh, I didn't know I could do that in
Yeah.
Salesforce. And it's like you really have to have a real big understanding, otherwise you're literally pissing away thousands of dollars, you know.
And that's it. It needs to be their job, doesn't it? Like their job is, hey, you work in Salesforce or you work in whatever. And I've ran Salesforce for years, and for the last couple of years I used it. I could get a few licenses, and I don't know, maybe I was using a smaller part of the product, but it got down to something like $480 a year, which I thought was really good because it's such a powerful tool for like a couple of users. But we ended up leaving Salesforce and going to HubDoc.
Oh yes, yeah.
No, we didn't. HubSpot.
HubSpot,
Yes,
yeah.
And I found that to be really good.
Yes.
It integrates to it integrates to your Gmail. You can drag and drop your prospects. You can build really good reports. So that it worked really well for me for like being able to just geek out on the numbers of it.
Absolutely, yeah, fantastic.
But we haven't gone for the integrations because then I think it gets really.
It does. It's sort of like a component-based model, so you can have like the core features, and then you add on, you know, the CRM and the marketing and stuff as well, and they can upsell that quite easily to a lot of businesses because of that kind of that integration and that having that seamless flow between all kind of elements of their business. But you know, HubSpot, Salesforce, they're one and the same, probably big competitors of each other. And I'm sure there's more bespoke tools that you can use as well. So from that kind of bigger business side of things, that's a really great way to kind of you know, target your prospects across multiple platforms using one sort of tool. The flip side of that, for more for the smaller, more, you know, oh, I can't really justify, you know, spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on tools. It's really natively through the platforms themselves. So I think most New Zealand businesses, in terms of targeting prospects, so, you know, advertising to bring in lead generation, they're using Facebook and Instagram, which is one and the same. So when we talk about, you know, using Facebook Ads Manager within Facebook Business Manager, just assume they were talking about Instagram as well, because Instagram is essentially just a whole lot of extra ad placements across the marketing platform that you can run your ads. And then there's LinkedIn. I don't think many businesses are doing Twitter advertising in New Zealand, but if you are, maybe we can have a separate conversation about that. So Facebook Ads Manager and then the LinkedIn ad platform are separate. So I guess if you can't afford to have a tool to aggregate everything, then you're just going to be working within those two as well. But one thing I would say is that on LinkedIn, I mean, I do some advertising on LinkedIn for different clients and myself, but the organic reach on that platform is so good that you really, you know, like you can really get great bang for your buck just by regularly organically posting on the platform. I still am getting engagements on posts from weeks ago, and you just don't get that on Facebook. It's like Facebook is like,
off straight,
you know, wham bam, thank you ma'am. And then on LinkedIn, it's like everything just hovers around for so long, and it's fantastic.
And what's kind of like the algorithm that drives that? Like, is it, if it's good content, it stays there for longer? Or?
Yeah, well, I think they're just encouraging more of that kind of community-based interactions on LinkedIn. There is just differences in the way the algorithm works because, you know, people aren't spending as much money on LinkedIn as a whole in comparison to the likes of Facebook. So Facebook's like, oh, you know, well, everyone is spending money on Facebook, so we don't need to give this much organic because, you know, if we drop that organic reach down to, you know, the 1 to 2 to 3%, then we're going to force people to pay, you know, and so it's a completely different kettle of fish, you know, and even the ad platforms themselves. Facebook is a very sophisticated ad platform. LinkedIn has recently made a lot of improvements to their ad platform, but it's still not as cost effective as Facebook. There's not as many ad real estate on LinkedIn as there is on Facebook. So therefore, you know, I think between Facebook and Instagram, there's, you know, about 15 to 20 different ad placements, different placements. So stories and mobile feed, desktop feed, marketplace.
Messenger now has got some ads.
Messenger as well. They're going to be putting ads into groups. So that's freeing up more real estate and things like that. So
ads in groups is a bit risky, isn't it? For some, you know, like
certain groups.
But that's the whole reason why they pushed groups so much, is because they want it to open up more ad real estate and to have them make money off that particular area. You know, so it's just using, you know, ads, but within Facebook Ads Manager, you can do some really sophisticated remarketing. You know, it's really well set up to custom audiences, pixel stuff. So you're kind of bringing in top of the funnel leads and actually being able to, I guess, push them down the funnel using different types of ads and audience groups. Which is, you know, a big in-depth conversation in itself. But, you know, you don't, I think, LinkedIn is very much just bringing in that side of things with audiences, custom audiences and stuff like that. And I haven't personally tested that out myself yet, but I spend a lot of my time in Facebook Ads Manager, and you know, it's a really great tool to be able to do quite sophisticated lead generation.
So with LinkedIn, you know, if I looked at it for, say, our business, what would be really effective is if I could put adverts in front of business owners, managing directors of small businesses in Canterbury or Christchurch. Have I got all of that ability? Like, can I search for job titles, search for all of that, get adverts? And what
the difference, I would say, is, you know, LinkedIn has got more data around business sizes versus Facebook, where it's more of that consumer audience. However, you do have the ability to search by job title and obviously interest in certain industries as well. So you can, you know, have company director and then put in your interests as in, you know, agriculture or you know, whatever that. So there is ways of doing that, and I think the benefit too is you kind of get a bit more of a well-rounded audience on Facebook, because it can be the people that are, you know, in those kind of other managerial positions that can also see things to have the influence to the decision makers within the business.
So for LinkedIn, would you reckon going the traditional advertising route by posting ads, or more along organic posts and reach sort of way?
For a general strategy for most New Zealand businesses, I would focus on creating organic native content within LinkedIn, so native articles and regular updates, videos, all that kind of stuff, and put your marketing dollars into Facebook/Instagram. And it all depends on industry, and that's just a very generalized statement. But that tends to be the strategy for most clients that I work with that is working really well, because Facebook is a cost efficient, like it's really cost efficient, and you have, you know, the ability to have multimedia and custom audiences and pixels that are kind of helping you really effectively push people down your sales funnel, from top of the funnel, consideration, conversion, and then back full circle with having advocates for your business. It really does it all, you know.
Perfect. And just a quick question on this before we move on from it. Like, I would imagine that your Facebook and Instagram, that's really good at building community, building audience. If you're posting something or doing something on LinkedIn, same thing, or are you looking more for, like, that's actual advertising, like, you know, click this to buy this or click this to read more? What would you be doing on LinkedIn?
It's really the same. It's a business community, and so the approaches are still around storytelling. It's still around kind of, you know, not having that, because that's what your remarketing is for. Your remarketing is for that kind of sales pitch. You know, it's not the organic top of the funnel stuff is around brand and storytelling and, you know, customers and, you know, the values of your business and your products and services and things like that. That hard sales stuff should only ever go in front of people who have come through the top of the funnel, you know, who have engaged and stuff like that. So I think that that's just a general philosophy for all social media, is that don't be tempted to hard and fast sell to a cold audience. Make sure you're actually generating warm, hot audiences from, you know, the warm audience should be, you know, who's actually engaging with your Facebook content, top of the funnel content. And then, you know, once you're sending them to the website, using the pixel to track those people at the bottom of the funnel stage for conversion. Too many people go in for the kill at cold audience level. Depending on your business though, I mean, like if you're selling like a low ticket or low price item or service or things like that, then, you know, you're going to get sales from top of the funnel content anyway. But you really have to, like, for someone like me who people, you know, invest a significant amount of time and money into using, they really want to know, like, you know, they want to know me, they want to know who I've done work for, they want to know so much, or does she even know what she's talking about? And so, you know, there's producing, like, the big chunk of my content is top of the funnel stuff, because once you've laid that foundation down for people, then, you know, it's a DM, or it's like a phone call or go to the website and send an inquiry through that. Then it's an on the phone conversation. Then it's a meet in person conversation. And that is my kind of sales funnel. So a lot of it is done on social media, but that's the hard graft. Because they're making their decisions based on what they're seeing you put out into the community and how you're interacting with your community and what value I'm giving people for free, and convincing them that, okay, well, I've broken down all their barriers before they've even had to pick up the phone or send me a DM or, you know, send me an email through my website.
And I think we get it as well. And, you know, it makes me really pleased that we are in the accountancy industry, because most accountants don't like this really long trail of lots and lots of activity, and maybe you get paid one day.
Maybe you get paid one day.
So I tend to find that, especially with these videos and other stuff that we're doing, we're then waiting for, you know, your accountant to stuff up. And then that's when the phone rings for us. But I really think that can happen for nearly every business, can't it? Every service-based business that sells to others. You know, don't be afraid that your phone's not ringing hot on day one.
That's what I drive home to so many people, is that it's a long-term game. It is laying a business foundation. It is not. It is a commitment, and it's not about you'll get quick wins and things will happen, but it's not always the case, and it's very, you know, it depends on your business, because you know, it may not be social media that's letting you down. It may be your sales team, or maybe maybe your website. So, you know, there's a lot of other factors. If you're running Facebook ads and they're not converting, that's not the only piece of the puzzle. But, you know, social media does so much more than just convert. And there's a whole process that people have to go through before they're even going to get to that point. Even if it is, you know, just a, you know, $80 event ticket or something like that. You know, there is a process that people have to go through, and you have to be committed to the long-term investment into social media, both time and money and content creation and all the other elements that go into it. If you just, you know, and lots of people give up, and then they're like, oh, we should have really kept going, because then we get a pandemic and it's like, oh shit, you know, I should have really made more of an effort with my community and not given up just because I didn't get the results that I was wanting. So managing expectations is a really big part of what I do with clients and stuff as well. But, you know, once you get that momentum with your community as well as with the algorithm and all that kind of thing, it's, you know, you can't beat it in terms of marketing spend and what you actually get out of it for what you put in. It's incredible.
And I think my key takeaways that I'm getting away from this is you have to build that infrastructure and make that commitment to continue engaging on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably a good segue to our next question.
Well, the next question was around that. How do we efficiently like the posts, and how without having to look at every platform?
And I guess this sort of touches on what I talked about in my first video around community engagement. And, you know, I spoke a lot in that around the value of engagement and what it actually means something to other businesses. So, you know, efficiently liking posts, you know, is one element of engagement, but it's not the most important element of engagement. And what I would suggest is that instead of trying to find a way to efficiently just go through and like, it's around, okay, well, let's set aside and let's create a process where I am, you know, actually getting amongst my community natively on the platforms. I always feel is the best way. And looking at, first of all, okay, well, who has tagged me in posts, or who has mentioned my business, or, you know, my personal name and posts, and use that as a starting point, and making sure that you're actually leaving valuable engagements, which is more around the comments and the shares and the, you know, tagging someone else in that post and saying, hey, check this out, versus just a little love heart. Because, you know, yes, that will, you know, the business is not going to see that really. It's just going to get lumped in with all the other people that are liking it. But if you're leaving a valuable interaction, like a comment or a share, that's going to mean so much more, and you're actually getting the results you want from being actively engaged in the community. So there are ways, we call it social listening, where you are kind of tracking certain hashtags and other accounts and stuff like that. You can do that on tools like Hootsuite and things like that. If you are using that, you can kind of set up streams where you're pulling in certain hashtags, so you've got one kind of dashboard where you can kind of flick between different hashtags and things like that. But I always feel like if you're going to be on Instagram, if you're going to be on Facebook, if you're going to be on LinkedIn, then you need to be in there, you know, looking at what's happening, you know, in your industry and the conversations that people are having with you, or what's happening on content that's relevant to your business, what's happening in the comments and things like that. And it should just be a routine, you know, it should be something that you kind of set aside even 10 minutes a day for, you know, if it's first thing in the morning, if it's, you know, before you go on lunch or whatever it may be. Spend time in your platforms is super important, because you could also be missing DMs and private messages and things like that if the notifications aren't coming through to you as well. So having those systems in place. Facebook Creator Studio too has Inbox Plus, which actually pulls in all your DMs and private messages, so combines Instagram and in one place, and comments as well. So that's another good reason to use something like Facebook Creator Studio. It's more than just a content management system. It's aggregating all those private messages as well.
I found that to be horrendous, you know, like I can see why Murray kind of has this frustration, right? And I'm the same with I'll look at my Facebook and it goes, you've got 30 notifications, and I'm like, have I? Like you look at it and you're like, all this stuff is happening.
Imagine when you're managing multiple other businesses. Like every day, it's like you have 99 plus things. It's like you have to rely on tools, and that's why Creator Studio exists, because people
so you can filter those ones to go which ones take action and which ones are just like, you know, I feel like Facebook is clickbaiting me to look at my notifications all the time.
Yes, and we can probably add link the those platforms in the comments below as well. Video.
Well, hopefully, Murray, that was enough to answer your 2 questions. I think there was a 20-minute answer for you there.
It's a video over.
But we had the other one, didn't we? Around, and this was a great one that was sent to you direct. Was around that. So how can we run a successful competition across social media?
That's a good one.
Competitions are everywhere at the moment, aren't they? And I think that the reason for that is that businesses are trying to find that, you know, way to kind of grow the community, and you know, they've kind of maybe let it slide previously, and now they're trying to look for that kind of instantaneous boost. And also as an incentive to get people to, I guess, you know, use their product or service or whatever the case may be. But the one thing I would say is, before you decide to even run a competition on social, really think about how is this adding value to your community. You really need to be super careful that you're not trying to grow your community and have people following you that aren't actually really interested in a long-term relationship with your brand or your business.
Because I've seen this recently with and not to criticize, but sorry, let's say you sell well, a couple of examples I've thought of were giving away like coffee vouchers, and I get it, that's cool, right? Because cafes are now like kind of back open, and it's cool because it supports the cafe. But if you're a jib stopper, right, and you're giving away coffee, the person following wants the coffee, not the jib stopping, you know, like
exactly right. It's super. It needs to be really relevant. And the way I kind of talk to my clients about competitions is how to add value to your existing community in terms of incentivizing people to be an active part of your own social community, versus trying to pull in people that aren't necessarily in your target audiences. Because all that is it's really diluting your community. Therefore, if you think about organically being able to only reach 2 to 3% of your community, you want to make sure that 2 to 3% is actually a really, you know, authentic and I guess, qualified audience, as opposed to people that are just there to win free stuff. So there's definitely ways to go about it. So if you decide that, yes, this is a great thing for you to do, please take time to read Facebook's policy on running competitions. Because, and I get this all the time, the whole, you know, like and share or like and tag. It's like, one thing I want to tell you guys right now, you are not allowed to ask people on Facebook to tag someone, explicitly say tag a friend, and you're not allowed to say share this on your timeline as a condition of entry. Don't even use the word tag, don't even use the word share, because it's like so many people do it, so people think that it's fine.
It's okay,
but big businesses have had their pages shut down before for breaking those rules. Red Bull, it happens. So you're best just to steer clear of that, and a workaround is like, let us know in the comments below who you would like to bring along, or who would be interested in this. As long as you stay away from the word tag someone or share this post, then you go, because I mean, Facebook are just protecting their community
Totally.
because it's just spam.
Yeah.
And no one wants, imagine if like a big New Zealand brand did a like, you know, tag and share and it was just all you saw on your feed.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's an absolute nightmare. So
Yeah.
these you know, these kind of policies are in place to protect the overall user experience of Facebook. So just make sure you take time to read that, and maybe I'll link it in the comments.
I was going to say, I think in our first video, I think just to give kudos to Scott Wilson as well, because he'd said something similar, and I know that he ran something a while ago, and it was like, you'll win this meal, tell us who you bring along, you know. So it was a real sneaky but very clever way of going, don't tag your mates, but we want to know who you bring along for this prize.
And people will inherently do that anyway, because they'll start typing their name and then Facebook will pop up the tag anyway. So it's really easy, but just be really careful about how you execute that, you know, and even using, you know, like to really get value out of competitions is getting that data. So getting email addresses and think about, consider thinking about, you know, how to integrate competitions and getting people to a landing page where they're at. But that carrot has to be a big carrot, you know, but the value of having an email address is much more valuable than a comment, you know. So think about ways where it's actually running a competition that's going to be a kind of more substantial value to your business in the long run, as opposed to just getting, you know, 1,000 extra likes for people that don't care about your business.
And that's it. Likes don't count, do they? They don't count for. They don't turn into dollars. They don't
but you're not getting. They're not even seeing your content anyway, because only 2 to 3% of them, or you know, maybe 5%, or you know, not very many. So it's all very well and good to have 10,000 likes, but you know, that doesn't really. If you're not engaged, if you're not highly engaged audience, then it's not really extra value for you.
What do you think of the kind of semi-sneaky thing that Mordecai and I did, where we set up new accounts for our Facebook? So you know, I've got my own Facebook page, which I don't connect with everyone on because it's got like trips of me on football trips, like photos of football trips and stuff. That's not a great public image, but you know,
just told everyone about it.
It's pretty easy to find. But then I set up my other page so I could do that like work side of things and reach out. And to be honest, that seems to have massive cut through, because Facebook kind of goes, oh, that's a person, and we rate people's content. Yeah,
or is it the content that you're posting on that particular channel is more personable and is more authentic, because you're putting too much of a business hat on your business page. So it really doesn't matter whether it's your personal page, because you know there's a lot that comes from personal branding anyway. But from a business, just because you've got a business page, you know, you need to still be personable on there. And a lot of businesses do feel like they have to put on this stiff hat. It's like, this is social media in 2020. Like you really don't have to talk any different. And if you do, you're kind of like doing yourself a disservice. Exactly right. You have to show who you are, talk the way you would talk. Because if someone comes to the point where they meet in real life and you're like, you know, well, you were what I expected. Because online you speak like this, and you don't, you know, like I hope that I'm 100% how I am. Like,
I think so.
So like when we did the video with Ben, and as soon as he could, he started talking about imputation credits and continued. That's you, Ben. You know, you can't wait to talk about tax.
Authenticity is super important on social. So be yourself, no matter if it's on your personal or on your business. But remember that on personal, it may be private, but nothing is private. I do a lot of work around personal branding, and what you're putting onto your personal channels, especially if you are the owner and operator of your business, or you're self-employed or freelance or whatever it may be, people see that, and that does play a part in, you know, people's decision making, whether they want to work with you in a business capacity. So just be mindful, I guess, of anything you put online.
And it's like stuff as well when something's over censored. Like if we get a CV through, the first place I go is Facebook. And one of the things I want to see is like at least one picture where they're holding a beer or something. You know, and if that isn't now, I'm going, oh, what are they hiding?
But it's show me who you are. Like that's really what it's about, because you know, if you've got the qualifications, it's just tick, tick, tick. But then it's around how are you going to fit into the team environment. So really, you know, and I think that from my point of view, when I started my business 2 years ago, it was built off a personal brand. People knew what I did for work for the past 13 years.
Yeah.
You know, and people knew, you know, that I had started my business through my personal, you know, I started off zero on, you know, my business accounts, but I had 2,000 on my personal Instagram. And so that essentially started my business, and that's where I got all my business from in the first instance.
Wow.
So it's personal branding is super important, and maybe I come back for a third video and we talk about personal branding, because especially now where there are so many people who are you know, in different employment situations, and you know, maybe out of work, or maybe worried about their job security. I think that this is a really important time to be looking at your personal branding and how much effort you are putting into the likes of LinkedIn to showcase your skills. But it's a very Kiwi thing to be like, oh, I don't want to brag about this. But there's there's a way of like, hey, this is who I am, and I love doing this, and this has been my career, and I really like to get more work in this space. So that's definitely another full video for another day.
Can I just say that is a great teaser. But I think a lot of it it's coming back to that word that we hear you keep bringing up again, and that's engagement. And at the end of the day, just remember that that's exactly what social media is. It's interactions with your community, with your target audience, and not just vanity likes, which is a new phrase that I'm going to be using.
So we're not chasing vanity likes.
No, we're all about that authentic engagement on social media.
Cool. Well, look, we've covered the questions, I think, in great detail as well.
Yeah, and a few more in there in the mix as well.
But I mean, have you any parting words? Is there anything that you'd like to just kind of say to the audience, Aleisha, or things that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially at this particular time in the world where we've moved on from a pandemic, trying to move on from a pandemic to a Black Lives Matter movement. And I think that it's really important that businesses here in New Zealand are not being afraid to talk about how their businesses are kind of being actively anti-racial. So, you know, I think a lot of times it's like, oh, I better not say anything because I might say the wrong thing, but there are numerous resources out there for businesses to educate themselves and individuals to educate themselves, and using their business social media to actively stand up against something, you know, as big as anti-racism is super important. So I think that find your words and, you know, find a way to reassure your community and support, you know, obviously Black Lives Matter is a American issue at this, you know, at the core, but in New Zealand, you know, we have, you know, a very multicultural country. And I think that people want to see inclusivity and to feel like, you know, they can be a part of businesses and brands as well. So just think about that, I think, is a way. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to find the right words. Saying nothing says a lot more than, you know, saying something that's, you know. Because that's it, because there's so many topics that you just go, staying out of that one. You know? Especially from a business point of view. It doesn't have to be much. I think it's an acknowledgement of something, and especially how it, you know, affects New Zealanders, if that's you know, your core market as well. So I think it's more about using your platforms and not avoiding difficult conversations as well. You know, so as an example, from my point of view, I just shared some resources that were helpful. You don't have to like get too personal, because there is obviously an element of danger zone within this. But it's about, you know, how you're contributing to the conversation in terms of your business on the platform as well.
And not being afraid of it. Mordecai and I nearly got ourselves into a bit of a spat online the other day, didn't we? That we had to tidy up pretty quickly. So but I think the thing is,
tread carefully for sure. Tread carefully for sure. But it's even if it's just internal education and you know how you know, you're speaking within your business as well. I would just encourage people to educate and to have conversations.
Cool, awesome. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you guys for those that that have watched this. I hope you found it really really interesting. Oh, Mordecai, I nearly stole your job. You're wrapping up.
Oh my god.
We've been waiting the whole show.
Sorry.
Thank you for joining us as always, Aleisha.
Thanks for having me.
I think you've got a little bit of a teaser to probably the next time we're going to get her along to talk about personal branding. But quick reminder, as always, Aleisha is a part of the Business Lounge, so feel free to drop some questions in there for her, and we will also link to all the resources that you talked about today. But otherwise, see you next time, same place, same time.
Cool.
There we go. I think it ended. We'll see.